Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Tonight, we're going to be looking at Expo 2001, another benefit anthology for the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund, also associated with the SPX Comic Convention of the Year. Once again, it's a really big, fat book. This is actually bigger than the last one. The one we looked at last time, 2000. And we start off with a Dan Clowes cover. And this cover's, I didn't even realize it was Dan Clowes at first because he doesn't often draw robots. But man, I love this cover for the satire in it. If you look in the background here, this comic book making robot, we see all the titles he has. And what it is like a list, a very biting satire of the indie comics movement, probably still to this day, but definitely at the time. And I gotta read off some of these guys because here's some unearned sentiment, clever title comics. Oh, that guy comics, disillusion, how precious. What about me? Has been, academic exercise. It's like a metaphor comics, very deep comics, cute. I'm so humble. I think I'm ready. Annoying man-child, hopeless. High school poetry illustrated, angry bad boy comics, exuberant neophyte, nature boy comics, wry whimsy comics, you figure it out comics, fuck this, fuck that comics, why does anybody read my comics, glamorous alcoholic, and just plain old stupid. And I was just like, man, he kind of hits the nail on the head where there's a lot of comics in these anthologies that are really not just bad, but in that kind of annoying way where everything he just described, like, oh, I'm trying to be cute, or I'm just going to, have some vague poetry I wrote in college and illustrate it. But there's some great stuff in here, and that's why I still have it, and I'm going to keep it. But man, just even last episode when we looked at Expo 2000, this one has even more stuff where I'm just like, I don't want to even own this comic, have it, crap up my collection. But there's some great stuff in here too. It's worth keeping. So let's crack it open. We got the credit page, we got table of contents pages, and just this is what I'm talking about, guys. We start off with James Kachalka, looking crappier than normal because he's doing this pixelated video game, primitive video game effect. It's called Song of the Stick. I don't even know if I should describe it to you. It's terrible. His elf finds a stick in the woods. Perhaps it once belonged to a great and ancient powerful tree. And perhaps it broke off in some battle with some unspeakable evil. And nothing happens, and there's nothing interesting about it. Like most James Kachalka comics. Next we have this Martin Sendreda. This guy's he popped up in so many anthologies back around this time. This is called Zurich Robot. And this is I don't know, not much going on in this comic. You see this robot, he doesn't know where he is. He's stranded somewhere. There's really not much to it. I do like a little storytelling trickery like this. Well, I don't know if trickery is the word, just technique. Kind of a cute little art style, I guess. But not much meat on the bones here. It's just a stranded robot trying to get rescued. Next we have Jeff Sekaj. Sikoryak. Hypertruck has seen the future of music. Is this little cutesy Cartoon Network style? This is interesting because he's talking about a computer that can write songs that are indistinguishable from songs written by humans, which is what's happening right now with AI. See I like all these little panels of this computer robot playing all these instruments, even scratching records. I don't like it a lot. This artist isn't really that great. These two kids question the computer's ability to actually write music with passion, heart, and humanity. So he flips the passion, heart, and humanity switch. He's like, oh yeah, I forgot to put that on. And the computer becomes a sensation. All of its songs become huge. Next we have Sam Henderson with Lonely Robot Duckling. A very typical Sam Henderson strip. Very silly humor. Just lots of very dumb jokes. This robot duck likes to pee on people. Sorry, I'm not getting into every nook and cranny of the plot, but we got a lot of stories to cover here. But suffice to say, if you like Sam Henderson, you'll probably like this strip. Sam Henderson's a pretty funny guy, I think. It ends with everyone peeing on this old guy. That's the level of humor we're dealing with. Next we have Craig Bostick and John Hetman. This is, I'm sorry, this is an ad here. I meant here. Art by Craig Bostick, story by Craig Bostick and John Hetman. And this is A Career Girl's Vacation on Venus. This is kind of a cute little story. It kind of almost reminds you of some weird old Archie comic. As written by Gilbert Hernandez. Like, we have this space celebrity, Fuchsia Galactica. She wants to go on vacation and get away from it all. Her manager screws up and leaks the word that she's coming. So she's like, I'm not going to be able to relax at all. People are going to be hounding me. So as his punishment, she makes him dress up as herself and deal with all the hubbub, you know? So she can just put on a wig and nobody will know she's there and relax. But then the manager keeps screwing with her. But it's kind of fun. And this art is kind of perfect for this, that kind of story. It's just like a light comic. Next we have Austin McKinley with Mr. Reality. This is, I found this odious. It's very of its time. And we see this woman musician. She's a cool rocker chick. And this almost seems written by like a 40-year-old man trying to be hip to the, the post-grunge generation. She gets in a band with some alien creature. As you can see, it has this weird panel thing. Almost like a design motif going on. But just, this is just so pedestrian and, like many of the artists in the last book, there's so many of these guys I never saw again, and I think I know why. It seems like these Expo books, they really didn't they didn't really curate it. It seems like any indie artist could contribute to this because it was a benefit book. So there's some people who probably, nobody liked. They just had their own little comic book that they try to push at these SPX cons. And so they got to be in it. But yeah, just see the art's kind of crappy. Terrible comic. Next we have Marc Laliberte, Humanity in Extremis, Mask Suite. This is kind of a very arty, weird kind of comic. Kind of some interesting visuals. His styles. It almost looks like this could be, well, if this guy was way better, it could be like some old heavy metal from the 80s. There's all these people wearing masks. I wish I actually wrote down all those Dan Clowes comics. And I could put each one under, the proper heading. Because almost all of these would fit. Dan Clowes kind of covered it on that cover. See, kind of interesting art style. Not bad, but this comic is just I don't know what the fuck it's talking about. Yeah, I like some of this imagery here. Making some kind of comment about racism, I guess. Religion, lots of stuff. The annoying thing about this era of comics, too, is artists were just getting computers and putting in crappy looking, computer fonts instead of real lettering. It's kind of odious. It's kind of obnoxious. This guy looks like he could draw a good comic if he had just any kind of inkling of an idea. But yeah, this is complete nonsense. Here we have an article about French artist Christian Hinker, Blutch and the Zen of Ink and Paper, Mark David Nevins. Blutch is his pen name, and that's how he goes by. And we get to see a comic by Blutch. This is called Je te do, which is I want you in French. So as you can see, very interesting style. Look at all this like chunky inks going on here. And basically it's a silent story. We see this guy, he's obviously in love with this woman, becomes smitten with her, and it's just him chasing her down. But I think I like this guy. This is some nice stuff. I like how heavy the inks are. It's like really laying down the ink. So this guy's wooing this woman, sketching her. He's an artist. Man, look at that. That's some chunky stuff. It's almost like a Jose Munoz. The irony at the end is it turns out both of these lovers each have their own lovers themselves. They're cheating on their partners. And next we have Jeremy McFerrin, The Steps of Santa Croce, or Cruce. Kind of a simple style. Once again, artist I'm not familiar with at all. That's another reason I kind of like keeping these books, because, over the years I keep discovering artists, and then I'll be like, oh, it turns out I have a story by them in some old anthology. So these old anthologies are nice to keep just as almost like a reference book. Like here's an example of 60 cartoonists from this era. It's just this kind of sad, melancholy story of a guy remembering being in love with this woman. Here's The Willful Death of a Stereotype. This is written by Chris Cajero and artwork by Bo Hampton. And this is some really, really dull autobio stuff of some, I assume Chris Cajero having a flashback to his childhood. But it's just a very mundane, typical childhood. So this is not a very interesting story. Really nice art by Bo Hampton, though. I'm sure this would look really better in color because Bo Hampton usually does that better. But I always like Bo Hampton. There's not much of a plot here, just a very mundane remembrance of his youth. But it is well drawn. It's one of those comics where it's almost like Chris Cajero doesn't understand how comics work. Like, I mean, all of these, you could just chop out all of these, exposition boxes and just paste them together. It would be a short story or a reminiscence, It doesn't really, and then it's just like Bo Hampton slaps art over it. It's basically about his struggles to be popular as a young kid by becoming class president. Yeah, even 4 pages of this would have been too much, and this goes on way too long. Way too much detail for this very not very dramatic story. God, it's even longer than I remember. I guess when you're reading it, it feels even longer. Man. I'll just flip through quick, show you all the art. Yeah, Bo Hampton does a fine job, I think. I'm a huge fan of Top Shelf Comics output, and maybe this is gives me an insight why. Because this guy doesn't really get comics that well. Speaking of which, here's Dean Haspiel with one of his Billy Dogma character in The Big To Do. Dean Haspiel's a guy just seems like he's kind of been a figure in alternative comics for decades, but nobody likes. I don't know any of my friends who like comics, who'll be like, oh yeah, I just got this new Dean Haspiel graphic novel or anything. I mean, he's very skillful. He like knows his shit, how to draw. And, I've read a handful of his stuff in anthologies, and they're always just pretty insipid. The humor is very just like, I don't know, like basically at the level of a bad sitcom. And that's what this is, just these two characters trying to be witty, I guess. Bantering back and forth. Next we have Cartoonist's Widow, words by Kay Seibecker, and Andrew Robinson draws it. Turns out this is Andrew Robinson's wife writing about what it's like to be the wife of a cartoonist and how she met him. So this is like autobio, but even like 1 degree removed. Like he's like, okay, asks his wife to write about him. He doesn't write about himself enough. I'm sorry, Alex Robinson doesn't do a lot of autobio, but you know what I'm saying? It's I found this very not good. Not a big fan of autobio. You probably heard me talk about it. Just this kind of autobio that's so just like is this story really worth telling? I mean, if I was a cartoonist, barely anything that's ever happened to me is worth putting in a comic or making a story or film of. It's pretty shit mundane. So this, and if you could imagine, just talking about helping him push his comic at Comic-Cons, this is utter rubbish. This is crap. I sound so negative. I'm sorry, guys, but this anthology really tested my my tolerance. There's so many bad comics in here, but there's definitely some great stuff. Interview with Carla Speed McNeil by Charles Brownstein. And next we have Chainmail Bikini by Dan Warner. This is very stylized style. And this is almost like a Fafford and the Grey Mouser type comic. It's this fantasy milieu with, like, you know, wizards and warriors, but it's played up for laughs, which I always wish more sword and sorcery would do. Just have a little humor in it. It's always so lunkheaded, but this guy's just not that funny. I could picture this style being okay for if the words are really funny, even though it's not my favorite kind of art, but I don't know, it's an interesting little style he's got going. Obviously very computery. Yeah, there's a lot of, definitely the age of computers has started, and a lot of these artists are really leaning heavily on the computer. Next we have Frank Camuso with Max Ham, Fairy Tale Detective in Just Right. This guy definitely smacks of being an animator. And I think his cartooning is pretty great. It's almost reminds me of Mark Martin or someone like that. And this is we've seen this so many times before, like a hard-boiled detective parody, but it's this cute little pig. And there's a lot of kind of funny puns, and it's a pretty good parody of that genre. See how totally really cartoony this is. Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing more comics by this guy. And next we have Sally and Sammy. And this is by Graham Annable. I think it's Annable. And this totally reminds me of old UPA cartoons too. As you can see, very simple. And we see this couple, and they're making out, but then all of a sudden the woman says, wait, I got to show you something. It's my dad's comic book. I guess he drew a comic when he was younger, when he was a little kid. And then we see the dad's comic. And it's a little story about this kid, Rodney. So he pulls out a totally different style, as you can see, which is kind of an interesting style. But, yeah, this story is not that great. It's just kind of like, of mild interest. Next we have Dan Zetwak, Northwestern Parkway. And this guy's pretty bad. He's a exuberant neophyte, as Dan Klaus would say. And this is kind of an autobio tale about visiting his grandma in the kind of a shady part of town. I do admire that he puts in, lots of, it seems like he's definitely working on these pages, but yeah, don't really like this story very much. Not really anything interesting happens. I'll show you the rest of the story. It's just him talking about his family, how his parents met, talking about his grandparents in this part of town, kind of the history of this, the West End here. Interview with Jeff Smith by Charles Brownstein. I think Charles Brownstein's the guy who got Me Too'd. I think he was like doing inappropriate shit with women as his duties as the CBLDF guy. If I'm wrong about that, please, sorry, I don't want to slander anyone, but I'm pretty sure that's the guy. Next we have Aranda's Coat by Matt Madden. And I guess this is kind of drawn okay. Almost looks like a early David Lapham style. But, yeah, I never liked Matt Madden stuff. All of his stories are just that kind of alternative comic that it's like, this is not a good ambassador to the world, even though he is. He's like one of the gatekeepers. Him and his wife, Jessica Abel, they edit those Best American Comics. They teach comics. They're like the experts people go to. And I don't know if this guy's ever written and drawn a good comic ever. This isn't the worst story. It's mildly interesting, but pretty blah overall. And as you can see, not really, the art's nothing to write home about. It's kind of a very perfunctory style to tell the story. So there you go. Next, we have John Kirschbaum, an untitled story about an apple tree. We've looked at John Kirschbaum a few times in this channel, and a big fan of his art. A very funny style. You can understand why he has worked for Mad Magazine. So I guess this guy's trying to get all these fruit out of this tree, and some kind of magic tree, because every time he sets up his ladder, the fruit migrate to another part of the tree, so he can't get them. And he sticks his rake in to try to shake the fruit out, and he gets sucked in by this tree. And he gets these, I think like kind of grub worms to attack the tree. The fruit keeps trying to run away from this infestation of worms. Very odd little comic. Not a word in it. And eventually all the apples, the worms make the apples fall out of the tree. But one of them lands on his head, knocks him out. And all the apples climb back up. And that's the end. Very weird. Next we have Hey Mister, Game Time. This is by Pete Sigmund Garner, the creator, of course, of Hey Mister. These are pretty funny. This guy's art seems like it's not quite there, but it works for Hey Mister, I think. And in this episode, our little characters here, they fill up the back of their trunk, this old beat-up car, with concrete and concrete blocks, and they just go around almost like, breaking their car, so guys in fancy cars ram into the back and ruin their car, because they don't care. It's a beat-up car that they have just for this purpose. Then when the cops come, they say that, oh, a squirrel ran out in front of me, I had to stop. And the cop gives the person who rammed into him a citation for following too close. So this is almost like their class warfare. Like if they see a car of some douchebag, in a fancy car, especially if they're like texting on their phone while they drive. They're almost like street vigilantes. It's pretty funny stuff. I have a bunch of Hey Misters. They're pretty funny. But just this guy, I wish he would just get slightly better. It's not the funnest comic to look at. And has an unpredictable funny ending. It's very, very refreshing just to see a comic that's genuinely kind of funny in this, because so many of the quote unquote humor strips in this fall so flat. Like Dave, I'm not saying I'm a funny guy or whatever, but some of these guys, their sense of humor is just lame, like bad sitcom humor. Speaking of which, this is Jen Sorensen. I think I used to read. She used to have a syndicated strip that I used to follow. Read in a paper. I can't remember what it was called. And she does have this kind of like. She definitely has a good style. Like she's nailed it down. It's very slick. And this one at least is more zany funny. Trying to be zany funny, but it's not that funny. I never found her stuff that funny. This is called Julie in Lustquake. And I guess she's this nymphomaniac woman who gets this giant dildo. But the dildo is so powerful that it like burrows through the earth. Comes out in Scotland. I guess it's kind of funny. But it's pretty dumb humor. It's always kind of odd. It's called Why I Absolutely Hate Vodka by Jimmy Palmiotti. So, this is that like mainstream artist and used to be an anchor. And just him talking about being in Brooklyn in the mid-70s. And basically all of the sexual conquests he had. I guess he was quite the stud. And he gives this little mini biographies of all these women. And Jimmy Palmiotti just sounds like that, that kind of guy. Just like, hey, she was getting a little too grabby, so I dumped her. Some of them were insane. It's weird how this first page, I could have swore by the lettering and everything else that this is Evan Dorkin. Look at that lettering. It really looks like Evan Dorkin. But the rest of it doesn't. And it was kind of interesting, I guess, just reading about this lifestyle I know nothing of. I never had that kind of young man era where I was going around being a stud. You probably guessed that by the fact that I have this YouTube channel and I just read comics all the time. Here's a comic, one of the ones that very much suffers from the computer. It's called Stagger Lee, an American Bandstand. And it's written by Derek McCullough with art by Rick Livingston. Talks about the old song Stagger Lee, which is based on some kind of old, almost myth, old legend. And I guess Derek McCullough did his research, found out that there was a guy who was based on very, and he became mythologized through all these versions of the song. It was a very popular folk song, and then, it's been a top 40 rock song. And they talk about, it brings it up to when Lloyd Price, who had a top 40 hit with this song in the 50s, maybe early 60s, when he came on American Bandstand, they made him change the words. Because the song is just about a guy, a murderer. And they thought that wasn't cool, so he had to rewrite it. So they present us with the rewritten Stagger Lee song. And it's really terrible, sanitized. But I like how for that, to illustrate the sanitized lyrics, he basically takes this Dan DiCarlo Archie style to show how, clean cut it is now and namby-pamby. But yeah, this is so much gross computer looking shading, this dot work in the back, all these bad fonts. This definitely suffers from that stuff. Oh, this is such a beautifully drawn strip. This is Mugwum's Big Night. It's Roger Langridge. And just look at this page. His craft is off the scales. He's such a good cartoonist. And this is weird. It's kind of split up into a bunch of little strips, all revolving around this kind of burlesque house back in the old days. There's a clown. There's Kitty McCoy, who's like the big star, this beautiful woman. And this guy's in love with her. Let me get his name. Oh, it doesn't say. I can't remember his name, but he's pathetically in love with her. She doesn't even know he exists. He's basically the stage manager. But he screws up the courage to ask her out. She just totally like mumbles to him, just doesn't even care. He's beneath her notice. And then there's Fred the Clown, his long-running character. A lot of hijinks ensue. And, of course, this guy doesn't get that woman, as you knew he wouldn't. God, I love his stuff. He's so precise, he looks like he uses a computer, but, I mean, he might in this story. But I know that Roger Langridge's early work was before there was computer art, before they had the technology. He always drew like that. He just drew so precisely. Interview with Chris Stars by Charles Brownstein. And we just looked at this recently. I think in the Best American Comics, maybe. No, it wasn't that. Maybe it was in that. I'm sorry, guys. I can't remember. I've made so many of these videos, I lose track. But this is Art Spiegelman. Abstract Thought is a Warm Puppy. And this is his commentary about Charles Schulz after he died. Or actually, I think he wrote this and drew this when he was just about to retire. He hadn't died yet. And it's just a bunch of strips, as you can see. Art Spiegelman draws it really well, like in this style of Schulz. Todd commenting on, Peanuts' place in comics history, his personal experiences with Peanuts growing up, what he thought about it when he was younger. And he actually got to meet Schulz. Schulz actually reached out and said, hey, I want to talk to you. I'd like to hang out with you. And they got to hang out for a few days. I like how then there's some of this like nice painted art interspersed. Is that the end of it? Yep. That's some kind of neat. Next we have that guy, what's this guy's name again? Here, let me look it up. I have a list going. This is Pshaw. I guess the guy's P. Shaw, but he kind of signs his work Pshaw, just puts it together. This is the Crushmores, and this is great because this is his tribute to the Upside Downs by Verbeek. And so you read it like this. We see these two little characters, these weird creatures in this crushing mobile. And then you flip it. And look, it's a pretty obvious homage. He even uses this very old-timey font as if it was a comic strip from the teens. And then you continue to read. And it works both ways. It's kind of cute, kind of interesting. And his cartoon is pretty, always kind of fun to look at. Pshaw. This is I had no idea who this was as I was going through the pages. This is David Lasky doing this beautiful full-color artwork. I've never seen him do anything like this. And this is a kind of just like a poem, illustrated. And look at this gorgeous painted art. I love that face right there at the bottom. This is almost kind of like poem about love. I'm sorry, this is actually, this is a passage from Ulysses by James Joyce that David Lasky illustrates, which is apropos since David Lasky has done whole comics about James Joyce. He's obviously a big fan. There's gorgeous watercolors going on here. This is really nice stuff. This is one of the few, one of the reasons why I'm keeping this book. This is really nice too. It's R. Sikoryak. Never seen him do anything like this. Snippy Snipe. And even though it obviously owes a lot to Harriman, but it looks like he's also like adding his own twist to it. He's not just slavishly aping another cartoonist. I mean, that's his shtick, right? Yeah, he's a really good mimic. But this has its own thing going on. Almost like reminds me of that, those ARF books. God damn it, I can't think of that guy's name, the editor and cartoonist, Craig Yo, where he incorporates some of those old elements. But This is pretty close to Harriman, but still, it's not a direct like parody of anything. I mean, these characters are very original, and it does have this kind of just silly wordplay. It's kind of nonsense, but it's all about. I think he just wanted to draw in this style, and it looks really nice. Next, we have more Mark Bell stuff. The Stacks presents Modern Mythos. Gravy World is coming. Just typical insane Mark Bell stuff. Just about how the whole world will be covered in gravy at one point. And then he has a weird drawing as filler in between the first story and this, The Giant Masher. And let me get my lists going on this next one. And just about this thing that goes around just smashing things. I just love looking at Mark Bell's art. Really nice colors, really always interesting designs. It's really strange. And this is back when he used to be funny. I guess he started being funny again. I just saw he recently, past couple of years, put out like another comic instead of like just an artsy stuff. Here's Ron Rees Jr. with Yeast Hoist. Some nice color work going on here, but yeah, still not a fan of Ron Rees Jr. Nothing really going on here. I think this was maybe a 4-color mini comic because it even seems to have the back cover here. And, you know, here's the cover. So I think they just reprinted it. Next, we have Greg Cook with The Crooked Way Along Which I Walk. And this is a true story from Massachusetts history from like the late 1700s about the first murder in this small town. And you can see it's that Greg Cook style, this little art. And basically the first murder, I guess he was the son of a prominent doctor there, and he ran away and then came back years later. Nobody recognized him. He wanted to visit his old place of his birth, and kind of melancholy ending. But just, I can't get into his stuff as much as a real comic. These are just like little illustrated books. Next, we have Cactus Love by Sebastian Frey. And, yeah, this would definitely fall into one of those Dan Clowes categories. Kind of wistful regret comics. Interesting style, almost looks European, his art style. Interview with Kurt Wolfgang by Charles Brownstein. This is some nice stuff. This is Renee French. Mr. Hinchman. Really pretty. I love when Renee French does this really just like, the charcoal-y, super pencil-y style. These little kids in these masks find this dead body. They decide to bury it. They put these two little, I don't know if they're dolls or actual creatures next to his head. And then the guy wakes up. I always see from his point of view, he looks to the left, he sees this fucking thing, whatever the hell that is. Looks to his right, and he sees this other thing. And then it starts raining. So he'll probably drown in there because the kids are terrified, too scared to go back. God, that's some beautiful art. Next, we have Kiss and Chaos by Arthur De La Cruz. I guarantee this person's an animator. Okay, I can't guarantee that. This is just a little vignette. Not very good at all. Really just a waste of pages. I'm sure this person could maybe draw something great, but just this little vignette of a story is just pretty dumb. Next we have If You Want by Fabio. Very strange little drawing style. I kind of like it. All these anthropomorphic animal people. But it's just kind of once again, inconsequential. It's just not very interesting. This guy's really into science fiction. And brings this frog lady home. He reads to her from his own science fiction poem. I've always had a burning desire to travel the heavens, to see the planets in person, to verify that Mercury sings like a crystal goblet. Since it has no atmosphere, you can only hear the song when you touch its surface. Yeah. It's just, I don't know. It makes me bummed because I always wish I could draw. I never could. I'm terrible. And when I see these guys who can draw okay, and they just it's like, don't you have there's got to be a better story to tell than that. Maybe, hopefully. Next we have, oh wait, is this, yeah, this is Paul Hornschemeyer doing Ex falso quod libe. I guess that's Latin. Yeah, this doesn't look like a Hornschemeyer to me. And this is another kind of just whatever. This fish man wakes up. He's very cold because he left the window open on accident. It seems like he's heartbroken about someone who's left him. He keeps being haunted by memories of this lost love. James Kachalka interviewed by Charles Brownstein. Most of these interviews are basically just about, oh, so when was the first time you came to SPX? It's not like a deep dives into who they are. It's all about, what do you think of SPX? And this guy was kind of odd. And I almost think that I want to see more of this cartoonist. He has this very kind of like grimy style. His name is, let me see, Garrett Izumi. Oh, I think I've seen Garrett Izumi's stuff in anthologies. This is called Ship of Fools. But, you know, this doesn't make much sense. But it's Adam and Eve on a little boat with the devil. And the devil ditches them. I don't know. But I can imagine if with good writing, this art could work well. I like its grindiness. This one's called Thou Shalt Not Covet by Allison Elizabeth Taylor. Very weird stuff. You could tell there's definitely some computer action going on in here. But it's just complete surreal. Like a nightmare imagery or dream imagery. As you can see, it's kind of tiny. I have a feeling this was shrunk down. But yeah. Maybe I wouldn't mind seeing more of this just because it's so weird. Completely non-linear weirdness. Next we have Tap by John Hankowicz. Oh, I know them. And just a weird little story about this guy in a hotel room. He keeps hearing this tapping sound. It's driving him crazy. And it starts very straight. Yeah, once again, though, just not much of a story. Next, we have Poor Johnny Edgar, J. Edgar Hoover, in Sins of the Father. And this is by Eric Reynolds. This is some really good Eric Reynolds, where we see the little little Johnny Edgar. And he's looking for his model submarine. And the father's in the bathtub shoving it up his ass. Meanwhile, we see this great parody of those old comic ads. And this is about, like, how come no girls will go out with me? And apparently because he has just gaping hemorrhoids and he doesn't wear pants. So his brother says, should put some pants on and stop showing off those disgusting hemorrhoids. I love the way he draws young J. Edgar Hoover, though. It looks like Marty a lot, the cabbie. And such a weird story. So finally, the father's done playing with the submarine. And so he cleans it with turpentine. But then when he's in the bathtub with the ship later, he's sweating. He's like obsessed. And of course, he can't resist trying it himself. Next, we have Johnny Ryan with The Nudist, the world's #1 superhero. I think I've read this before in like one of his Angry Youth comics. I love this perverse character. He's this guy who just shows up in the park and says, I'm Captain Candy. My entire body is covered with delicious gumdrops. Would you like to taste some? He always goes up to children. So then these children proceed to like lick his body all over. And he's just like, yeah, that's it. It's so perverse. And then the nudist comes up and starts beating him up. Of course, the kids are just like, get out of here. This is great. So he kills Captain Candy. And he says, well, you know, he was going to ruin your teeth if you ate all that candy. So they're like, thanks. And then he invites him over to his house to play ping pong or something as he sweats profusely. So just, man, Johnny Ryan, so foul. Well, I gotta admit, I love Johnny Ryan's comics. They crack me up. Here's the provocative and scandalous comics art of Willem by Mark David Nevins and Joost Polman. And then next, we have Willem, Untitled. There's some very odd stuff. Once again, guys, I should have read this article, but I ran out of time. This took like all day to read. I kept falling asleep, waking up, trying to get this done. Really interesting wordless comic. Just very imaginative and surreal. Look at this tiny Santa Claus. Instead of reindeer, he has mice carrying his sled. And then they fly right into this dog's rectum as he's trying to take a poop. It's bizarre. And then these guys kill the dog and eat it or cook it. And when they open it up, Santa and his sleigh of mice come flying out. Very odd. Next, we have John Lewis. I've never seen him do almost like a storybook thing like this. This is called Virtue and Virtuosity. Kind of an interesting tale about this king whose previous jester or clown turned out to be a horrible murderer, and he's wanted throughout the land. Turns out he's been living in the castle walls for years, evading capture. So the king has another clown summoned from a distant land. So it's just a weird, bizarre tale about this new clown. He's very skillful. The court loves him. But in his, private chambers, I guess the old clown is spying on him from cracks in the walls. And it's almost like they have this weird, not relationship, because he doesn't even know he's there, but the old clown kind of becomes obsessed with this guy and his weird behavior. Pretty interesting story. Though I'm not a fan of this format, He does have word balloons and stuff, which make it a little more palatable. But, I don't know. I like comics. Pretty elaborate tale. These guys find the clown. He finally tries to escape. They chop off his head because there's been a reward. A bounty on his head. And it kind of fizzles out at the end. It's just kind of like, what? Next we have Find the Monster by Ben Catmull. There is a monster hidden in each picture. Can you find them all? And this is just some kind of cute, fun stuff. I like Ben Catmull's art. It's pretty slick. I like that sad monster. Excuse me. And then one of the final monster we see is this baby strangling a cat. Next we have Flowers by Mike Battaglia. And kind of interesting. But also, okay, whatever. Kind of just weird. Jordan Crane interview by Charles Bernstein. Advertisement. And then next we have Race from Dying by Chris Forgues. Forgues? I don't know how to say it. Not a big fan of this art. So it's a pretty slapdash, as you can see. And just a very odd little story. Not going to really get into it. I do like this ending, though, which doesn't make sense, but just visually it's very nice. He uses this crown to like start kind of making grooves in the ground, and then these grooves just start kind of enveloping him. And that's the last page. Kind of interesting. Next we have Ben Jones doing Alf. And not a fan of this guy. His comics are pretty dumb. And I don't find this that appealing, this style. It's kind of funny, though. There actually are some funny things in here. And some interesting things, but like I like this spaceship that looks like a sneaker. You know, now that I look at it, I guess I wouldn't mind reading more stuff by him, just because it's kind of interesting. Just not off the bat. It's not my cup of tea. Next we have, where are we now? This is Dave Kirsch, Untitled. There's another one that's just like, I could see how this could be appealing, this style. Almost like Lloyd Dangle or something. But nothing really worth reading here. This one's very odd. It's Warren Craghead. If you remember, we saw him in the Expo 2000 doing that pirate comic. And this is very different as far as it being kind of abstract and weird. This is almost just like modern art, just with a pencil. I don't really think there's anything to explain here. I do have to admit that there's some little bits kind of visually appealing to me. It's not like I would say, this is a great comic, because it's kind of not at all. It is what it is. But you know, like how some modern art, it's like you can't really describe it, why you like it. Like a Jackson Pollock painting, it's just like, ooh, pretty colors. That's all, you know, basically that's what I see when I see those paintings. I kind of like look at them like this. I just love this swoop of this composition. I don't know why, it's just random. It looks like a stain on a countertop. Sometimes staying on countertops can be very aesthetically pleasing, though. Something's going on here with all these diagrammic lines and stuff. I don't know. It's not like I'd probably like buy a comic of this, though. It's kind of interesting to look at for a few pages, but then interview with Dean Haspiel by Charles Brownstein. You can tell just by the interviews in here that like they're really picking not the best, not the cream of the crop. You know, they're not interviewing Dan Clowes or Chris Ware. They're interviewing all these guys I just never really liked that much in the indie world. This is Mike Lowry's Ronnie Was Born with a TV Head. And a little odd little tale. As you can see, kind of crude. Kind of I think one of those neophytes again. Oh, it continues here. Yeah, then it gets even odder where that's the last page where it's like, what? Where did this come from? It's not like they were talking about the Virgin Mary or anything. And here is On the Clock by Robin Chapman. It's just about a woman who works at Taco Bell. Really a story that never needed to be told. Drawn not that well. Here we go. And here's a little intro to the Thomas Ott story we have, the great Swiss artist. And once again, this is so worth the price of admission, this story. This is called, the article is called Silent Stream. It's written by Mark David Evans, the intro. But here we have The Millionaires. Look at that. Man, his scratchboard style, it's amazing. So we see this guy. He's driving in the middle of the night. Without a word, the whole story is told. There's a suitcase on the car seat. We keep seeing a focus on the suitcase, so you know it's kind of important. Look at that. Great art. All of a sudden, these headlights are trying to run him off the road, so they succeed. He flies off this this highway down an embankment. And the two guys in the car run out and scooch down to where the wrecked car is. The guy looks like he's half dead. They grab the suitcase, it's full of money. They leave the guy to die in his car. Then I guess they're going to bury the money for safekeeping for a little while. But one of the guys picks up the pickaxe and kills his partner. I just love his art so much. His stuff looks so good. It's amazing. So he goes to a motel. It's run by this old man. And I don't know if it's his daughter or he has some young lover. May-December relationship. And you can tell they're up to no good. Like they suspect they're probably going to rob this guy. Ah, oh, exquisite art. The guy finds a scorpion in his motel room. Puts a little glass on it for his amusement, just to watch it. And then I guess he runs out of booze, so he goes down to the lobby. And she says, oh, I'll pour you a shot here. And it's poisoned. He keels over dead. The old man buries the body behind the motel. And while he takes a shower, the woman comes in and throws an electric razor and electrocutes the old man. So she drives off with the money. And when she reaches in to check on the money, I guess that scorpion got in there. Or maybe the guy put the scorpion in on purpose. And now she goes flying off the highway. And these passerbys find her dead with all the money strewn about. Oh man, that's good stuff. And we close out the whole book with an untitled comic by Andy Ristano. This comic is interesting because we just looked at that Jessica Dart story in The Best American Comics, 2007, I believe. And I thought this was her because he tries to almost kind of uses her, interesting storytelling techniques. Having these like things follow from page to page. Jessica Dart does it way more complexly and interestingly, but kind of this cute little figure. I couldn't quite understand what's going on. I think he wants to get some of these things here. I don't know if they're some kind of fruits growing off of this weird flora. But it's definitely about playing with the form, He's just having a good time. And then the arrow says go up here. And then this you ignore because it says continue. Basically, it's just this little cute character traveling through this landscape, a very interesting, fantastical landscape. He goes into this, underground factory works with all these pipes. He gets spit out here. And then we go back. It tells us to follow the arrow. And we see him landing at like an air pump and pumping up his body. Then it tells us to go back to here. And because he's pumped himself up with air, he floats away. And we continue up and up and up. And then we see him high in the sky. And then that's the last page, just his little tiny body flying. Definitely wouldn't mind seeing more of this kind of stuff. I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff, the little fun experimental stuff. So there you go, guys. Expo 2001. Quite a very, well, I'll say it's a big anthology, but I can't say it's a great one. There's just way too many really bad stories in here. But definitely worth owning, especially because it was so cheap. I think this was $7.95 when it came out. And because it's a benefit comic. So, but definitely worth having for the handful of really great stuff in here. So hope you guys like looking at it, and I hope to see you next time here at the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.